Most horror stories begin with something evil entering a town. This one doesn't. In Annapolis, Maryland, nothing arrived. Nothing broke in through the woods or crawled up from the water. There were no screams in the night, no blood in the streets, no warning sirens. What happened in Annapolis unfolded quietly. Between hymns, between routines, between prayers that were sincere but dangerously incomplete. This is not a story about monsters. It is a story about delay, and about the moment a town learned, too late, that faith does not replace responsibility. Annapolis is the kind of town Americans trust instinctively. Brick sidewalks worn smooth by history, white churches with doors that open easily. Trees old enough to remember wars and epidemics and still stand politely silent. People here believe in schedules. Sunday service at 9, Bible study on Wednesday, dinner before dark. Order is comforting. Order feels holy. It is also where danger learns to hide. Grace Steward was 59 years old. She taught Sunday school at St. Andrew's Episcopal Church. Widowed, soft-spoken, the kind of woman who remembered birthdays and left handwritten notes in hymnals. She lived alone 3 streets from the church in a small blue house with a screened porch and wind chimes that rang even when the air was still. She owned 2 animals, a golden retriever named Caleb, old enough that his joints stiffened in the cold, and a gray cat named Miriam, who preferred windowsills to laps. Grace vanished on a Thursday, not late at night, not under suspicious circumstances, just between routines. Her phone was left on the kitchen table. Her purse hung on the back of a chair. The stove was off. Caleb sat by the back door until night fell. Caleb did not understand disappearance. Dogs understand time through pattern. He knew when Grace's footsteps should return. He knew the sound of her keys. He knew the difference between waiting and being abandoned. That Thursday night, Caleb sat upright until his muscles trembled. He smelled something wrong. Not blood, not death. Delay. Dogs know when something should have happened and didn't. He refused food. He watched the door. No one came. On Sunday morning, Pastor Michael Reed addressed the congregation. His tone was calm, measured. "One of our members may be experiencing a difficult season," he said. "Let us lift her in prayer." No name, no urgency. Heads bowed, words murmured, faith exercised. And then everyone went home. This is where the genre turns. In a normal horror story, this would be the moment fear enters. In Annapolis, this is where comfort becomes lethal. Grace was not reported missing for 48 hours. Why? Because she was responsible. Because she was faithful. Because people believed she would return on her own. The police report used a phrase that appears often in overlooked cases. Voluntary absence. Detective Thomas Keene, a man with 30 years on the force, felt the phrase settle wrong in his chest. But he followed procedure. Procedure is also a form of belief. Miriam did not wait by the door. Cats do not trust absence. They watch it. She stayed on the windowsill long after dark, eyes fixed on the yard. Cats see what doesn't belong. That night, Miriam saw a shadow cross the porch without sound. She flattened herself and did not move. Cats understand survival without hope. At 2:17 a.m. on Tuesday, the bell at St. Andrew's rang once. No one was pulling the rope. The sexton swore to it. The sound was thin, wrong. People woke, listened, and told themselves it was wind. Wind is comforting. It has no intention. Grace Steward was found 3 days later near Spa Creek, in a wooded inlet not far from her walking route. No visible wounds. No clear cause of death. The medical examiner listed it as undetermined. The town exhaled. A funeral was scheduled. 17 bell tolls. Closure arrived early. Caleb sniffed Grace's coat once. Then he refused to sleep indoors again. Dogs do not grieve like humans. They search. Every night, Caleb pulled toward Spock Creek, toward something no report mentioned. Dogs know when fear was contained too long. That scent does not wash away. The church was full. Pastor Reed stood at the pulpit and surprised everyone. "We prayed," he said, "but we did not go." The room stiffened. "There is a difference," he continued, "between faith and avoidance." Some nodded. Some looked away. Silence returned quickly. Silence always does. Detective Keene boxed the file himself. He noticed something unsettling. Every witness delay occurred between Sunday and Wednesday, the days of prayer. He wrote one sentence in his notebook before retiring. Faith slowed the clock. Then he left the force. Annapolis returned to routine. That's when the second disappearance almost happened. Ruth Bellman was 72. Widowed, lived alone, never missed Bible study. When she stopped attending, people assumed rest. Her daughter assumed distance. No report was filed. Prayer was offered. And then Ruth's cat appeared. Jonah sat on the church steps. Cats do not beg. They deliver. When the sexton came outside, Jonah stood, walked toward the side alley, and waited. 3 hours passed before someone followed. Ruth was found alive in her basement, locked in, dehydrated, repeating the same sentence. "I thought if I prayed long enough, he'd leave." Police asked who he was. Ruth refused to answer. The town didn't press. They called it an incident. Evan Moore came to Annapolis for quieter work. He specialized in stories that didn't end loudly. Grace Steward disturbed him, not for what happened, but for how easily it was accepted. He mapped disappearances, near disappearances, welfare, checks. They clustered around churches, not crimes of passion, crimes of access. Every victim delayed seeking help because they believed they were being tested. That belief wasn't accidental. His name appeared everywhere, not as a suspect, as a helper. He fixed lights, unlocked doors, walked women to cars. He prayed publicly. Trust grew easily around him. Evan requested interviews. The church declined. They said it would stir confusion. Confusion in Annapolis was considered worse than fear. Caleb growled once, outside the church, at one man. Dogs do not growl at memory. They growl at future harm. The man smiled and stepped back. Caleb never growled again. He simply stopped walking that route. Evan obtained a sealed supplemental report. Inside was a detail never released. Grace Steward tried to call 911. The call lasted 7 seconds, then disconnected. She left a voicemail instead. For the church office. The message was deleted during routine maintenance. No malice, just timing. Her last recorded words, "I think he believes I'll wait." After Evan's article ran, the man with the keys sold his truck, moved quietly. No charges were filed. Faith does not preserve fingerprints. Caleb died facing Spa Creek. Dogs face danger when they die, not memory. His grave was unmarked, but his absence changed the town. The bell cracked during a storm. It was never fixed. Now it rings only when the wind shifts just right. People began knocking sooner, calling sooner, acting sooner, not instead of prayer, before it. That distinction saved lives. This was never a story about a killer, or even a crime. It was about delay disguised as virtue. God was not absent in Annapolis. Neither was evil. Both waited. Only one required permission. Grace Steward trusted her town. Her town trusted God. And for a moment too long, no one trusted themselves to act. That is the horror Annapolis learned to live with. And it is still moving outward. Thank you for listening. If you'd like more stories like this, you can subscribe. We'll be here.